everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Extra Time presented by In 90 Minutes Podcast. Tonight, it's just Luke and I, back to the old crew for a little bit. Had a lot of, well, mainly just David, but had Adam on here too, just before David was on with us for a while. World Cup break, obviously, is officially over now. So start off, Luke, how you doing today?
But like good. Um, Expectant for the season after the World Cup break, so a bit hesitant, but also a bit excited because we've got quality players and we've looked like we've kept a quality player. Doesn't look like we've lost it. We've lost that player just yet. So, yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Good. Yeah, I mean, obviously, just before we're recording the show, the news came out that Martino Hayes is injured, is out for tomorrow night's or tonight's game when this is released. And, so that'll be a big knock. I would assume Justin Ellis is going to fill that role either up top or underneath, depending on where Griezmann plays. I don't believe DK traveled with the team. Has not been reported yet. I'm sure we'll know by the time the show releases tomorrow morning. So we'll see. Probably start with like a 4-4-2, I would imagine, and it'd be Griezmann and Ellis up top. Be exciting to see what Griezmann can do tonight with being his first real competitive match. So we'll see.
Pasalic kind of in question as well.
Yeah, he still is not with the team.
He's still
So
not with the team, so he will definitely not be in the squad as well. So we're looking at the moment, looking very thin, but with everybody coming back slowly, could be looking like a good attack overall.
yeah, once everybody, even without Marco, I think we'll be fine because obviously if we do sell him, that'll open up a designated player spot that we hopefully will be able to fill pretty quickly. Just kind of, Ricardo seems to be the type of general manager that wants to make sure all the eggs are in the basket before he promises them. Kind of, so he doesn't like to purchase players until the previous players sold, which is smart business. Because obviously you don't want to bring in a designated player and then Marco never gets sold, and then you're kind of in a bind, and that doesn't look good both to the supporters and to the other clubs in the world that happens. So it's understandable. Still have to bring in a left back. Still, I would like to still see some reinforcements in the midfield. But it is what it is, as Perelman says.
All right, coming from well,
Yeah, I mean, tonight we got a lot to cover, obviously, with the World Cup and the U.S. getting knocked out. We did have a show, last week, and just kind of covered mainly the World Cup and transfers. This week, we kind of touched it on the show Monday night, the main show Monday night. But some of the controversies that have been on the internet, since the U.S. Exited the World Cup. So we're going to cover most of those tonight. Some of them will be brief, like promotion relegation, whether it should or should not be in. Will be a shorter one. Not necessarily that shouldn't take up the whole show, but then other ones like our youth academy or pay to play, stuff like that, probably will take quite some time. So, but we're going to kick off with promotion and relegation. For obviously, the MLS is not a promotion relegation league. U.S. soccer is not a promotion relegation system. All the players that or all the teams kind of are stuck in the division they're stuck in until USL changes that. I believe it's next year. I believe it's the 2027 season that they're changing that, and adding promotion and relegation. For me, if everything goes right being if you want promotion and relegation, I see the MLS and USL eventually merging at some point, like every other sport at the professional level has done. I mean, NBA, what was it? NBA, and there was another league. I can't remember what it's called right now. ABA, I think it was, merged. NFL and AFL merged, I think is what it was. There's been mergers in every professional sport. And I think if the MLS gets into a position to merge with USL, that they may do it. The whole issue with me with promotion and relegation is the getting the owners, because the owners have to sign off on it, obviously. You got some owners that have put in, half a billion with a B dollars just to get a club in the MLS. That doesn't include the stadium and operating costs and everything that are fixed into that, or not fixed into that price. So I see that as the biggest bridge to make, is to get the owners on board. It has to be something where, certain teams are, there just has to be something. I don't even know the answer to that, but as far as if I'm for it or against it, I'm honestly split both ways. I think it would be great, but I also, knowing what I know about the fan here in the United States, knows that if, especially in the bigger cities, New York, LA, Boston, I said LA already, Chicago, if one of their teams gets relegated, that team's going to struggle. There's other things in those cities for people to do that are considered top level sports or top level entertainment. And those teams, they already struggle as it is. I mean, look at New England. Red Bulls has been there for a while. They do okay. New York City, when they're struggling, they struggle. Look at Chicago. The LA teams are a little bit different, where, they rarely struggle with attendance. But I feel like if it was, if there was a tiered system and they get relegated to the second division, that their attendance would drop off as well. So I think I think it would struggle, but at the same time, if, I could see how it could succeed, because there's nothing like, Luke can tell you, there's nothing like a, promotion battle, or even a relegation battle, in sports. It's exciting. It's excitement all the way through. If you're one of those top teams, if you want to call it, it's a different type of excitement if you're, one of the bottom 2, 3, or 4 teams. So, I don't know what you think, Luke, but that's kind of my opinion in a
Yeah,
nutshell.
I've been fighting with the discussion for like nearly a decade, so I think it's impossible. I don't think there's a way to go around it, and because you've got all these teams, like you said, who've invested nearly $500 million into getting franchise. The way it's different is these are franchises. No, there's no clubs in the MLS, unfortunately. You look on Wikipedia and it says Orlando City Soccer Club. It was disbanded, and now this is Orlando City Soccer Club, the MLS. The reason the USL was disbanded is because this is a whole nother franchise. So, you look at the Columbus Crew, which was like, oh no, that's not a great example. But you look at other clubs who came in, for like FC Cincinnati. Like FC Cincinnati as a FC Cincinnati USL team, they were disbanded, and now they're FC Cincinnati MLS side. Like, it's almost impossible to do it, and I think it is impossible, and I don't think we'll ever see it, because it's like, there's, like you said, teams that invested $500 million into getting in the MLS, and all of a sudden these teams get a chance to get into the MLS. They're not clubs. They're also franchises. So that if there's a way for the MLS to get so much money that they can compensate other teams, to say like, and I mean trillions, like they probably have to shovel out $1 trillion to compensate these other teams by getting in the league. Like, I mean, the current MLS teams. So they're like, okay, we're happy with what we got. Now you can let them in. And there you go. Because it's all about money at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just don't think it's possible. With how much money these teams are invested currently in the MLS and what they have invested to get into the MLS, for them to just merge with another league and allow these teams to get into the league that we are is impossible. So that's my kind of opinion on it.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is having it having a non-tiered system is kind of the American way to do things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean to equate it to something, the way I always equate it for people that don't know is Major League Baseball, to a point where, you know, the it'd be like, you know, the bottom 3 teams of Major League Baseball having to go play AAA ball, and the top 3 teams of AAA ball having to go jump up to the major leagues. Now, obviously, you know, the skill gap is massive there, but to me, it's a little bit closer depending on how um, what the prize money is for getting promoted. But you know, the skill gap between the clubs is between the 2 levels is much greater. I mean, right now we saw the skill gap between MLS and the championship when we played the Rowdies, who have one loss in league play all season.
Yeah.
You know, I think they actually just recently got to 2 losses, but still, I mean, it's 4 months into the year, into the season, and they have 2 losses. So I mean, they, you know, they're a good team for the USL Championship, but are they a good team for, you know, the MLS? You know, it's just a hard where it's at now is so hard with, as you know, I looked it up. The most recent MLS franchise fee was $500 million, so $500 million. You're never going to convince a owner that dished out that much money to either purchase the team or that paid that to buy the franchise, you know, buy the franchise from the MLS, is going to be okay with saying, you know, if you guys have a bad year, you could be playing in the lower division, you know.
And
And it,
the one thing about it is that, let's just get this straight. We're called Orlando City Soccer Club and Los Angeles Football Club and um like whatever, like football clubs. We're not clubs. There's no clubs in the MLS. They're all franchises.
Mhm.
And the difference is like franchises and clubs, they're completely different. Like we've seen, and there's been cases in England where this happened with you know, Wimbledon FC and AFC Wimbledon, where you know, Wimbledon FC used to be MK Dons, and then they got picked up and moved to Milton Keynes and stuff like that. But that's, you know, very rare. Very rare that ever happens. Like ever. Like probably once in a lifetime. That ever. Never will happen again. But they don't have that anymore because there's now an independent regulator and stuff like that. But what my point was, clubs don't exist in the US. They're all franchises in the MLS. What I mean by that is my club, Blackpool, can never get picked up and moved and go somewhere else. Never could happen. They have to go all types of ramifications, whatever, and whatever. The owner who bought it, which would be the Wilfs, could decide one day, this isn't working out. We're not getting enough attendance. We're not getting enough traction. Let's pick it up and move it to, because they own the Vikings, let's put another team in Minnesota since there's enough attraction to go there. And there's nothing you can do about it. because they're not a club, it's a franchise. It's basically they bought the franchise itself. They bought that franchise, which is,
Hmm.
like in basketball, like in, you know, is a franchise. So the Cleveland Cavaliers are the Cleveland Cavaliers, or like the Los Angeles Rams used to be the St. Louis Rams.
And they also used to be the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, yeah, and teams get picked up and moved. And what was it? The Raiders as well? The Raiders used to be
Raiders were in Oakland. They're now in Las
Oakland, now
Vegas.
they're in Vegas.
You go into with NBA, the LA Lakers used to be the Minneapolis or Minnesota Lakers.
Yeah,
Major League Baseball is pretty famous for it because you had the Brooklyn Dodgers that are now the LA Dodgers. Um, just to name a few off the top of my head that have, moved. I mean, we're seeing it right now in the MLS with Vancouver talking that they're going to league, which my opinion is the MLS should be just teams in the United States. That's my opinion. Um, I understand why they did that to begin with, but I think it's gotten to a point where it just needs to be the United States, especially with the schedule that we're going to be switching to. It's going to give those guys such a home field advantage. During the cold times, especially playing a team from the South. I would much rather go from the cold to the warm than the warm to the cold.
yeah,
Coming from somebody who played sports, played soccer, played baseball in the cold, you can never warm up. At least in the when it's warm, just a little bit a fan makes you feel better.
yeah.
A
And
little bit of
trust
a
me,
breeze makes you feel better.
I was. You don't want to go like. I've been to England on Boxing Day, which is December 26th for my American people. If you don't know what Boxing Day is, and New Year's Day on the northwest coast of England, on right on the coast, and you're getting hit by rain, sleet, snow, and it's just miserable. So, in
Sounds like
Florida, it
soccer
won't.
weather to me.
What?
Sounds like soccer weather to me.
Yeah, and it's just miserable, and like you can barely feel your feet and your
Hmm.
hands, and like sometimes like I think we hit a good time in December or November even where we'll still be playing in November in that calendar switch, uh, which is good, and then we'll have a break, which will give people the opportunity to watch other type of football. Will still be on, but we'll just have a break. Um, and
It's
then
about a month and a half break, is what I understand.
yeah, it's 6 weeks. It's like Germany. Germany have
Yeah,
a 6 week break, which I like. Personally, I like. That means I can go home and watch Boxing Day and I don't have to worry about freaking Orlando. I can go back and watch football for a month and then I can come back and Orlando's playing again. Like, personally, I think it's a dream because I'm like, I was thinking about that when the calendar switch was going on. I was like, freaking hell, I'm going to have to miss Boxing Day to watch Orlando City in December. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm like, I'll just skip games. But if they're doing this, then that's fine. But there's other stuff on, so I kind of like the little 6 week break in between. So yeah, I think it's good
definitely, definitely.
because even in
Um,
February, it's really nice. So by
yeah.
the time we kind of get really hot, the the peak will be in the season, and that season will probably be like April, and then like
Well,
once
the
April,
funniest part about the calendar switch is we're still going to be playing during the hottest, 45 to 60 days of the year, which is mid July through mid September. Obviously, once mid September is over, 'cause I feel like Labor Day weekend, which is always the first week of September, um, is almost always, or last week in August, depending on when the first Monday
yeah,
is always the hottest weekend of the year. Um, but we're still going to be playing during that. But from what I understand, a lot of the matches to begin and end the season are going to be on the road. We're going to have a bulk load of the matches in November, December, February, and March at home, to kind of give the northern teams. Now, what I think that'll be is like, a combination of like, 5 out of 8 matches will be at home. During the cold seasons, 5 out of 8 matches at the beginning and end of the season will be away. So we're still going to have, the home matches to go to at the beginning and the ending of the season. It just won't be like it is during the cold seasons.
No, give me
But
Minnesota in December. That would be good. In the middle of a snowstorm. That would be great.
the U.S. showed why that's a bad idea.
I know, right?
What was it, last World Cup cycle? They
Yeah,
played a qualifier and
2018, wasn't it?
yeah, that was 2022. It was a 2022
22, yeah.
cycle.
It was 22 or something where Minnesota was like rocking up and it was flipping, tipping it down with snow. You can barely even know who
Oh,
was.
that one, the snow one was for 20. Was that 2014 or 2010? The snow game was in Colorado or Utah or somewhere like that, where
Yeah.
where it was, I believe it was against Costa Rica. Where they had the orange ball out and that still didn't help. You couldn't
I know,
hardly
right?
tell on the TV. Yeah. But no, they played one in the 2022 cycle where it was like the high for the day was like 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And like during the match, like the wind chill was like negative double digits, and the opposition goalkeeper got frostbite on his toes, and like it just looked miserable to be playing in.
Yeah.
It's hard to breathe. For those that have never been in that weather, it is hard to breathe walking when it's near 0 degrees.
Yeah.
Your lungs sting, it stings your throat and everything, and it's just brutal. But
Yeah, for all like the Boston teams, it's going to be like for like New England specifically. I know because I know that region. It's going to be miserable because I've been up there in the winters and
mhm,
it's been like I don't want to be here.
mhm. Well, when they did the switch, I looked, and it's I think it's 16 of the 30 teams um, are going to experience cold weather. I included Seattle and Portland in there. I know they don't get as cold as say even like St. Louis or Cincinnati does, but they still get snow. They still get their double digit, their teens highs every once in a while. Um, so it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out next year. Obviously, I mean, I'm excited for it. Luke knows I'm really trying to find a jacket to wear to the matches because I don't really have one. I have basically a windbreaker that's Columbia, and that's it. So keep joking that I'm going to be buying a Stone Island jacket. And for those that don't know, that's like one of the brands a lot of the ultras in Europe where it's like minimum $700-800 for a cheap jacket from them. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be happening. But moving on, kind of touched on it when we were talking about the promotion and relegation and the level of play. And I'm interested. We've talked about it a little bit before in past shows, but I really want to kind of dissect it, especially with you, Luke, paying so much attention to the championship. Not necessarily like number wise where the level of play for the MLS is, but like just what the level of play is compared to other leagues, or you can do a ranking if you want, but I don't know how much that, to me, that doesn't give any context. There's so much you could rank it off of, but just
Yeah.
pure level of play, skill level, intensity level, stuff like that. Where do you think, it ranks and why?
Sorry, I didn't really understand the question. So you're comparing it to the MLS.
So like where the MLS ranks compared to
Oh, oh,
let's say the championship or
yeah.
Serie A or
I
Serie
would
two
say,
or
yeah. That's tough. So I would say the Premier League's on another level. I would say
yeah.
like
Well, they're in a
absolutely.
level all by themselves, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're on a league on their own. Um, I would say that some teams could compete with. That's tough. Some teams could compete at the championship level, definitely, and probably even with the teams that the thing is, it's becoming so polarized English football that like the same three teams are going up and down. That even like I don't think you can compete with a West Ham, but I think like I don't think you can compete with like I think but you can't compete with like a Tottenham either. Like I look at go team for team. Do I think that who's the best MLS team at the moment? Inter Miami. Let's just I'm sorry we're in Orlando.
Miami or Nashville, sure, yeah, either
Yeah,
one. LAFC you could
I know
throw in there, but
I
they've
know
just
we're an
lost
Orlando
Luongo.
City podcast, but I'm being a football analysis person here. Do I think Inter Miami would beat Coventry City? No. Do I think Inter Miami would beat Hull City? Maybe. Maybe. I think they'd give them a good go. Do I think Inter Miami would beat Ipswich? I think they'd give them a good game. So I would say like with those teams, would I say that challenging mid to top championship, the top MLS teams, yes. For an average MLS team like us, because we are average, say we're average, maybe even below average if we're giving us the playoff record and stuff like that. I'd say we'd be competing at mid to bottom championship. If that. So we'd be competing with teams like
Oxford, Sheffield Wednesday.
not even them. Like I think we could beat them.
Okay.
I think we could beat
Stoke. So
yeah,
basically
yeah,
what you're
like a
saying is
like
you
yeah,
think
like
they'd finish like bottom middle of the table, basically.
yeah, so like a Stoke. So yeah, so I think we could compete with like a Middlesbrough or a Millwall or a Norwich.
Even though Millwall got
Teams like that.
promoted.
Huh?
Even though Millwall just got promoted.
They didn't get promoted, did they?
I thought they did.
No.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. They didn't. They, what's their face?
No.
West Ham got it. Yeah.
No. But yeah. So like a Millwall or a Middlesbrough or a Norwich, Preston. Like I think Orlando City could compete with like or maybe the top teams can compete with them. Now, like a Wrexham versus Orlando City, that's a close game. That's a very close game. So we'll see how that goes. LAFC could probably beat. I would say most or all of the MLS are a championship side. There's no one who can
Take out your bottom two, 3 or 4. Definitely.
Yeah. So like
And
even nowadays you look at the championship with like a Southampton or a Wrexham or a Wolverhampton or a West Ham. Like that those are tough Premier League teams. So yeah, I would say the MLS is at a championship level.
well, when we were talking about it, how the level of the championship has risen
Oh
just in the last 5 or 10 years, when you see the teams that get and the bottom end of the Premier League has risen, you see the teams that are getting relegated from the Premier League. We looked at some point back in the spring at the point totals from like a recent history ago, like I said, 5-10 years ago, and you were looking at teams that were on like right around 10 points or less getting relegated. Wasn't it this past year the bottom the to not be in the relegation zone, you had to have like nearly 30, if I remember.
So it's actually lower every year.
It's
Uh,
lower. Okay. I thought it was
it's
raising. My
it's
apologies.
lower every year because of the fact that the teams that I keep on getting into the championship itself, no, that keep on getting into the Premier League, stay in the Premier League. So like your same three teams are going up and your same three teams are going down, which
Yeah.
is causing everyone else to get all this money and they're now competing. And then now you've got from last season, you've got West Ham who were in the Premier League for a little bit, Wolves who were in the Premier League for a little bit. Burnley wasn't. Burnley's like a yo-yo team, which they go up and down every season. Like, that you look at the points difference between 19th and 18th of last season, it's 17 points between 19 and 18th.
Mhm.
17 points. That's what? 5 wins and 2 draws? 5 wins and two draws
Yeah,
from
nearly
first.
6 wins. Yeah.
6 wins. 6 wins gets you 19th to 18th.
Hmm.
So it shows that the Premier League is just getting even tougher to stay into. You know, West Ham went down with 39 points. 4 years ago, 39 points would have probably got you mid-table. Like, actually, let me check that because I can actually check that and I can actually.
What year were you saying?
Like 10 years ago. So 39
We'll do
points.
the 15, 16.
So 39 points would,
39 points. You would have been in 16th,
yeah.
17th.
So
Sorry,
it would have kept you
17th.
up. It would have kept you up like 10 years ago. 39 points, which shows the standards risen. It's way
And
more
yeah,
tougher. The teams that have come into the Premier League are now that or have been in the Premier League are tougher to beat now than they were 10 years ago, which shows that now the champ what this means to the championship is now it's becoming a Premier League 2, quote unquote. A Premier League 2, which is, you know, all these teams that can't sustain in the Premier League are all can't like competing in the championship. Next thing you know, you've got Birmingham City, who's got a load of money. You've got Wolverhampton, Wrexham, Southampton, West Ham, like Sheffield United, who were in the Premier League for a bit, Middlesbrough, who's there. You've got Cardiff, who's around, Burnley, who's just gone like down. So you've got so many teams, and now it's becoming its own Premier League.
when you even look, what is that? 9 years ago? Yeah, 9 years ago at the 20, or I guess 10. This would be 11 years ago. Sorry, no, 10 years ago. 2017, 2018. However many years that is. Um, you look at the West Brom got relegated with 31 points. You know,
Yeah, yeah. West Brom, like West Brom's now at the bottom end of the championship. Like then they nearly go down. They nearly went down at one point, and that just shows like the difference of what's going on. More money's being invested into football. Old teams like my team are being left behind, and like teams that are actually getting invested money are becoming better.
Mm.
It's just the football way. That's what I have to stay on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree that the MLS now is, you know, mid. I don't think anybody would be even close to promotion. I'd agree with you on that. Um, but I'd agree that most MLS teams are mid championship level. Obviously, it's so hard to compare it to other leagues because of our salary cap and the designated player rule and all of that. I mean, we would, average signing, if I recall correctly, the average signing in the championship would basically be a designated player for every MLS team, essentially.
Yeah.
You look at what Duncan was going to be selling for and what he most likely would have made if his loan would have went through and they would have chose to keep him and everything. He was going to be on a DP salary. Daryl DK was on a designated player salary with West Brom. So it's hard to compare it to other leagues, but as far, because the money just isn't there as well. But I mean, let's look at other well-known leagues, that aren't quite. I'm going to leave the Bundesliga out there because I personally believe I'm going top to bottom, like for the whole league. The Bundesliga, in my opinion, is the second strongest one out there, just based on how they play. And then third would be Spain. Fourth would be Italy. And then which country am I missing? France. France would be fifth. So let's go from the bottom up. What do you think any MLS team would compete in France?
Yeah.
At the top level, I think they'd be lower. I think that the first division in France, outside of PSG, is worse than the championship. Honestly.
And Nice and Lyon.
Yeah.
Like.
True. Yeah, the three big clubs. Yeah.
And they definitely compete in Liga. Germany, yeah, they would compete again.
They'd be a little bit lower. I think they'd be, kind of relegation battle, every one of them. Just the way, the technical aspect of the way the German league is played.
Yeah, but I think the pace could beat them.
True.
The pace that the MLS plays at is just on another level.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Spain, Italy, I think outside of the top 4 or 5 teams, I think they'd compete with decently, maybe 6 teams depending on the season.
Yeah. Italy, they'd
Italy.
be winning the freaking league.
No chance.
The reason I'm saying that is because they play so freaking slow.
True.
They'd pass them off the park. For every one pass in the MLS, for every one pass in Italy is 10 in the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
They'd pass them off the pitch, especially some of them playing on artificial pitches, which you need like mega control for that. Italy plays at donkey speed, and but they'd pass them off the park. But the whole thing is with Italy is the quality is just so much better that they can ping a ball 60 yards and it's just nothing to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference.
And the defenders are better overall.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Defenders
it's a physical
keepers.
league. It's a physical league.
Yeah.
In Italy. But I'm saying like pace wise, they could pass Italy. They could pass Italians off the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
It really felt like it because of how fast the MLS is played. But
and then Spain outside of what were you going to say? Atletico.
I could go for Spain as well. Like they could pass Spain. They could pass La Liga off the pitch because Spain does play at kind of a slower paced game. The fastest paced league in the world is the Premier League, just by a mile. Then like quality wise,
out of the top 5, yeah, I'd say Portugal's faster. Say it's the fastest in the world is tough because Portugal, I would say, is faster. Brazil, depending on who's playing, if it's one of the Brazilian giants playing a lower end of the table team, it is slower because the bigger clubs just suffocating the other team.
Yeah.
But if you get a good Brazilian match, it's extremely quick. I mean, in the old Club World Cup, when who was it? Manchester City was in the final playing. Was it Palmeiras? I think.
Something like that.
Don't get mad at me if we're wrong. Let us know in the comments and we'll correct it next week. But they showed that they could compete. Well, they still lost 3 or 4 to nothing because eventually just talent takes over. But they showed that they could compete with the press, of Man City, and You know,
Fluminense.
Fluminense. Thank you. I would have gotten hurt by somebody for saying
In
that.
2023.
Yes. So I mean, it's just one of those. You know, the MLS has grown leaps and bounds since we entered the league 11 years ago. It's actually impressive. I mean, even you even go back, 4 years ago when we won the U.S. Open Cup, and you look at the squad we had. It's nowhere near,
Yeah.
in my opinion, nowhere near the squad that we have now.
And
You
whether you
know,
want to thank Inter Miami or curse them, they've kind of told people quit messing around and let's spend
hmm
some money. Because you're not going to get it the cheap way, are you? And whether they're
exactly.
breaking um, labor laws or whatever, or whatever's going on with that, it's pushed teams to be greater in you know, times of when people were trying to say this is the cheapest option, let's go for Walker Zimmerman.
hmm
They're
As their
like,
designated player.
yeah, they're like, let's go for somebody better than Walker Zimmerman. That's that not even comparable to Walker Zimmerman. So that's that, and that's the reason we brought in Antoine Griezmann is because they're like we have Messi and Busquets, and it's forced other teams' hand to say, let's get a no. Who am I thinking?
Son or
Yeah, a Son or
Lewandowski,
a Griezmann or a
or who'd Vancouver get
Thomas
from
Muller.
Bayern? Mueller. And I mean, you think, even 4 or 5 years ago, before Messi joined the league, those would have been huge signings in the league. So I would say, especially a Griezmann, a Son, would have been, because of their age, they're a little bit younger than the other ones. Would have been massive signings. You know, and it's just, yeah, they're big. They're just a big signing now. They're not, league changers necessarily. When you look at it in the past, they were. You know, that's like just another transfer window in the league. Oh, we got 2 or 3 more big stars joining the league, and I mean, really, when that's going to change is when we start getting stars that are in their late 20s instead of their early to mid 30s, and that's when the league's really going to change, and that's not going to change until you see a lot of the salary cap, the salary cap raised,
Or,
designated players.
or even like signings we forgot, like Timo Werner for
Yeah.
San Jose. Forgot he was playing for them, or like
hmm
a James Rodriguez for like flipping Minnesota. That's bizarre.
Is he still on their team? Because I thought that was only a 6-month
I
deal.
think I think he's not on them anymore. But even the
Yeah.
signing just in general is a bit nuts.
hmm
Like DePaul, I don't like DePaul, but he's a
Yeah.
he's a big player.
hmm
Like he's made an impact, and you kind of forget about him. Like he came from Atletico Madrid, so these players kind of just now go under the radar because now they see the potential of MLS and the audience and the possible career moves they can make further on from football, and they probably just live here. And probably there's tons of footballers that buy houses in America and just stay. Like they're like, oh, like let's stay, let's sign for like Nani, for example. I don't think Nani lives there anymore,
He does. He still has his house
he
here, is
still
what I
li-
understand.
but he still has his house. Like he still pretty much lives here. And you've got like Antonio Nocerino, who still probably has a house here, and he hasn't played for us for nearly 10 years or something.
I
So
believe Kaka's still around.
yeah, Kaka's still
You
around
know,
doing stuff. And it just shows that, they see it beyond football. They just see a good life here. So, which is great. I'm all here for it. I just want players who's committed to the idea. I'm more concerned about who's in the driver's seat. And right now, I don't think I'm trust the person in the driver's seat. It's not the players on the pitch. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I missed part of what you said because but it was that if it continues this way, the league's going to have no choice but to, um, raise the salary cap, add another designated player or two to each team because it's just
yeah,
it's an expensive sport. It's more expensive than any other sport out there, and until that changes, um, this league. I feel like this, as it stands, this league is very close to its ceiling.
listen. What I think will happen is they'll keep on raising the salary cap and raising it and raising it and raising it until there just isn't one anymore. That's what they'll do. They'll just say, "Well, these teams already have world class players. What's the point? Just go
Yeah.
out, do whatever you want."
Well, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I think eventually they'll do something like they do in most European leagues, where what is it? You can only spend as much as you brought in,
Yeah, like
basically the previous year.
there'll be financial fair play rules,
Yeah,
like brought-ins, whether you can dodge them or not. Like Man City.
yeah.
Another
And I
thing.
mean, just to compare it to Major League Baseball. Now, Major League Baseball does have, um, sorry, Major League Baseball doesn't have salary cap. Let's do. I don't want to do the NFL because it's the biggest league, and
To the NBA.
you
Well,
made it in. Yeah, okay. I was going to do the NHL just because the roster is about the same
yeah,
size.
do the NHL then.
And I'll ask you, what do you think the NHL salary cap is?
I don't even know. I don't even know where to start with hockey.
It's at over 104 million.
Really?
Yep. They're about the same. They have 23 active players. So that's, about averages out. We'll just call it, it's more than, but we'll just call it 4 million a player. You take the MLS salary cap, obviously there's TAM and designated players and all that don't count, but you take the 420, gosh darn it, I can't do numbers, $6,425,000 salary cap, and you divide that by the 26 players, you're at a little more than $24,000, almost 25 per player. Like I said, obviously you have the homegrowns, you have your TAM that you can use to hide some of the salary from the salary cap, and obviously the designated players that hide all but about 700,000.
Says the salary cap 6 million.
Yeah, salary cap for the 20, according to Google AI, it's 6.425 million.
So that's our budget.
Yep.
Like, and we can't
Yep. 20
expect
MLS website, 20 players. So sorry, it's 20 players.
6.425 million. And somehow
That's 321. Sorry,
yeah, and somehow
321.
Miami fits all those players into a 6.425.
Well, like I said, you have to, you have to include the, TAM players. Like if players are bought down using TAM, that's not included in there. Designated players, it's like, what is it? 600 and something thousand, I believe. I'm trying to find it here. It's not showing me. There you go. It's if anybody signed in the winter transfer window, They're charged 803,000 and change. Secondary transfer, the budget charge is 401,000. So they're still getting, they're still getting that charge.
Yeah. Ugh.
So until
Well,
things change, it's not going to. They're like I said, they're very close to their cap as it is, as far as their ceiling anyway. Not I won't say cap, their ceiling as to how good the league can actually get.
yeah, we'll see how, you know, how this thing goes, because especially after this World Cup and then after the thing, there'll be a lot of eyes on the sport, a lot of interest with, like, you know, us keeping the MLS keeping players, and it's like, where do we go from here? Why is it not getting enough attraction? And it's because the players aren't getting enough. The players that we can bring in can't be brought in because of limitations that we have. So how do you go around the limitations? That's the question. All right. Yay for pre-recordedness. We went on a bit of a rant, but we had some technical difficulties. So pre-recorded is great, of course, all the time. Basically, what I was saying. We'll just see how it goes when it comes to maneuvering out of this. I think there's a lot of when patience gets a lot when with the MLS they want to be and Americans want to be the best at something. When Americans invest, they want to be the best at anything. Whether that's basketball, American football, even like when darts comes to the United States, it's like it's so extra grand and ordinary in the Madison Square Garden and stuff like that. So when the Americans get invested, they want to be the best. And when they want to view a sport, they want to see the best players in the best leagues, and that because that's what they're familiar with, especially with basketball and American football. They're so familiar with that. So we'll see how it goes. They might succumb to pressure, and next thing you know, they might expand the DP slots and the salary cap to a point where people are saying, "Why aren't these players in our league? We're America. We should have the best league." And they might just scrap the salary cap. And next thing
Mm-hmm.
you know, other teams might just bring in players, and then that just changes the whole game. We might bring in world class players from other areas of the world, and like, and then we might bring world class players from South America or Europe, and there's no limit on that because there's no salary cap, which is like the greatest thing of all time. But there is some disadvantages to it, of course. One of those being, uh, if a if one owner is really rich and another one is not, then the disparity between the two um, is going to be like absolutely polar opposite, like black and white. So, yeah, there's also that scenario where it can also be absolutely detrimental. But that's where financial fair play comes in, independent coordinators, and for example, like the league, like you get in a league position and then the league gives you money for the position that you're in. So there are types of incentives to go on. And yeah, so there's that going on. So there's all types of aspects, which is exciting because it could get to that point where it's a possible pathway to get rid of the salary cap, but I don't see that. I can see that in the next 15, 20 years instead of the next 10. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the whole issue is the players union and them having to come in and come to an agreement, which I don't know why you wouldn't want to come to an agreement. Obviously I know it's a general statement, but why you wouldn't want to come to an agreement for more money when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
It's just to me it doesn't make sense why you wouldn't want to, but it is what it is. And I mean, on that note, something that, you were talking about, we've been talking about the league getting better in our level of play. Something that obviously helps greatly in with level of play is the academy systems, the clubs having their own academy and actually tapping into it, which is kind of on par with, some things that have happened the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Orlando City signed 2 academy products to senior team contracts. Whether they'll actually play or not, that remains to be seen. Just because of our history, recent history with having these academy products and how much or how little they play. I feel like Luke and I are on the same page when it comes to Alex Freeman and the year he had last year. The only reason he played is he got the playing time he did is because it's kind of an oxymoron sounding, but he was just that good. And when I say playing time, I mean any playing time whatsoever. For instance, you saw we had who'd we have last year? Gusky, Typhy, Thomas Williams, and Alex Freeman. Ellis hadn't signed yet. I think those were the 4 that we had from our academy that signed senior team contracts. Obviously, Williams was on his second one, but the other 3 were on their first. Gusky didn't get many minutes. Typhy got no minutes. I mean, if he got more than 20, I would be shocked. Williams got no minutes on the senior team, and obviously Alex Williams got the bulk majority of the minutes at right back for the season. And then this year we had, we sold Thomas Williams. Freeman we sell. Everybody knew he was going to be sold to a team in Spain. And then we signed Justin Ellis to a senior team contract. We signed Tahir Reed Brown to a senior team contract. Gusky's still on his. Typhy's still on his. And this year, whether by default or not, they've gotten a decent amount of playing time. I'm looking their minutes up now. But they have gotten a decent amount of playing time this year. And they which is good. You can't have a quality team without having your young guys you just can't, period. So while I looked at their minutes up, Luke, if you want to give your 2 cents on it, and then
Yeah, I just feel
hopefully by
like
that time I'll have the minutes figured out.
so with yeah, so with some of the kids specifically, feel like it's kind of played in the favor losing Oscar Pereira and kind of gaining Perelman with him being so close with OCB. Um, because he's familiar with the players that are currently on OCB and the contracts that have been signed with the players that we have now. When you have that and you have that experience, it gives him the experience to trust in those players. Meanwhile, if you remember and go back to when Alex Freeman was just breaking through the team, I mean, he had to force his way onto the team because they were like, Oscar Pereira was certain he was not going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who was it? Was it Dorsey
Yes.
playing on that side? He signed Dorsey for a pretty big amount of money, and
Sorry about that, everybody. Luke's having some internet troubles as well as I'm having some technology issues, so we had to pause the recording. We're gonna pick back up where Luke was, talking about Alex Freeman and the young players.
Yeah. So basically, I was probably at the Alex Freeman part where we kind of forced himself into the team. Yeah. So there's that, and then you've also got like players breaking through, like Zach, who are also breaking through the team at the moment. Getting international call ups. So I feel like there's a ton of good prospects of young play. I don't want to say young players, but yeah, I would say young. I would use the word young players on the horizon for Orlando specifically. So we got to, because I feel like if the managers see the talent and see it early enough, we can get the most out of them and get the most development for them in the time that we do have. Because I feel like we could have had a little bit more with Alex over the time that he was here instead of kind of being stubborn because we spent 1.2 million on Griffith Dorsey,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So
Well, and I know that, like, to me, and people are going to be like, oh, well, he was, you had a little bit of a relationship with Thomas Freeman and what have you, but it comes down to the fact of seeing what we have in the back at each position of these young players, and just not playing the young guys. And I'm not expecting these guys to start every match. I'm not saying they should start, but I'm saying when, last year, for instance, when we had that crazy April and May, where we had, it was like for 6 weeks, we had like 10 matches. That's a lot of matches in 6 weeks. And, we started well, we started okay, and we kind of ended on a slump. And then you have the coach, and the same thing happened right before the season took a break this year, where, both times, different managers, but both times the managers were saying, oh, the guys were tired. Well, they're tired. Why don't you rotate a little bit? Why don't you sub sooner? Why don't you, and I understand, like, wins are at stake, points are at stake and everything, but these guys have shown that they're good enough. Ellis obviously has played the most. He's played 539 total minutes for the senior team. Zach's played 336. Collins played 284. And Tahir Reed Brown's played 221. No offense to Tahir Reed Brown. He's not quite at that level. But the other three, Gusky, Typhy, and Ellis, all three have shown that they can perform at this level. Ellis obviously is the most skilled at his, out of those three, in my opinion. But ceiling wise, I think Typhy has the highest ceiling.
yeah,
Personally, just because of the national team that he seems to be leaning towards, which is Morocco. Getting that, and just, right backs tend to, defensive players tend to, get a little better with age, and be productive for longer as well. So I feel like Typhy has the highest ceiling, but Ellis right now is, to me, well above the other two. So he, obviously he's gotten the bulk of minutes, gotten some starts. It'll be interesting to see what they do tomorrow with Ojeda being out, because obviously I think Gusky was kind of the odd man out with Griezmann coming in. But even then, he would be the first person off the bench, which is kind of, unless you have a absolutely ridiculous player like an Alex Freeman that's a game changer, you're not going to see a young player start. It's just not going to happen. And, but to say, like, and basically why I'm saying it how I'm saying it is, it came up on social media last week that a certain account was calling our club a failure with the academy. Well, how can you call it a failure when we have just sent Alex Freeman to Spain? There was a 16-year-old that we sold to Europe. I can't remember his name, the midfielder.
Yeah, Alejandro Granados,
Yeah,
who went to Club Bruges.
yeah, which is the biggest club in that country, if I'm not mistaken. Belgium, yeah.
I don't know where he is now, but he was 16 years old.
Yeah. But to say that we're a failure where, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, newly 19-year-old is, getting good minutes, 584 minutes, that it's a failure is hard. It's hard for me to see that, period. And everybody, anybody that watches the main show or even this show knows that I'm very critical, can be very critical of things that this club does both on the field and off the field. And to me, using Ellis as an example of a failure is the wrong one to use. Use Gusky, sure. Use Typhy last year, sure. I mean, Gusky's our first right back off the bench. He's usually the first defender off the bench, depending on how we're playing. And, so, I mean, would I like to see Gusky and Typhy play a little more? Absolutely. Would I want to see all the young players, if they're good enough, play a little bit more? Absolutely. And it's just, we've really only had an academy for 5.5 years at this point. When Poppy came in, they really booted up the academy. So it's, but as a whole, in order for the MLS to get better, look at New York Red Bulls, what they've done, or Red Bull New York, whatever they call themselves now.
Yeah.
Look at what they've done. Look at Philadelphia and look at the players that they've churned out. Look at Dallas and look at the players they've churned out. So it's just, it's a matter of time before other clubs catch on. And most other clubs do have an academy or at least a pathway to their reserve team or to their senior team through their reserve team. And it also kind of brings me to kind of a side subject that it irritates me beyond understanding that there are independent clubs playing in the MLS's reserve league.
Yeah, like Chattanooga.
Yeah. And I did the stats on, OCB, which we didn't cover in the main show. OCB had a draw this past Sunday, and their average age was 19 years old for their starting 11. Chattanooga's starting 11 was 25. There's a huge difference physically and mentally between a 19-year-old and a 25-year-old. And yes, developmentally, can it help these players? And does it help these players, especially from Orlando City's aspect with the skill that we have on our reserve team? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, the reserve team isn't necessarily there to win games. These independent clubs are there to win games.
Yeah, but if John, kind of to push back a little bit on you, you look at the top teams at the top of the MLS Next Pro, and you look at them, and they're like Columbus Crew 2, Crown Legacy FC, which of course is Charlotte, so they're a B team. They're not a team.
Yeah.
Us, and then Chattanooga FC. Okay, but if you look at the bottom end of the table, you see Huntsville and Carolina Core.
Mm-hmm.
And so those teams.
And real quick, who's at the very bottom of the table with 0 wins and
Miami.
Only 5 points.
5 points on the season with four draws and.
Which means they've only won one of those penalties.
And that means they've only won one of those penalty shootouts is Inter Miami. But you see, like, even on the West, like, North Texas FC is at the bottom half of the table. Real Monarch FC, or SLC, I don't know what that means. Bottom
Yeah.
half of the table. And, like, Tacoma Defiance, bottom half of the table. Top teams are, like, Houston Dynamo, Austin, Portland Timbers, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Los Angeles FC.
Hmm.
So it shows that these teams who are reserve teams are beating these teams like completely. So it's good experience for them. And most of them Carolina Core are like feeder teams or B teams for those. Like Huntsville is like a feeder team to blimey now, Nashville. I think it is. It is like a feeder team to Nashville. So it shows that like they are feeder teams, but they're just like their own independent teams. Like
Hmm.
Carolina Core, I'm guessing is for Charlotte, and
No, from what I understand, it's a feeder to a point. It's more a feeder to the reserve team because these independent clubs have the guys that are playing on them are for soccer players, middle-aged soccer players. They're 24 to 28. You have a handful over 30 and a handful under 22. So it's a lot of guys that are in their quote unquote prime that are playing for these clubs. And to me, especially like watching the one against Chattanooga, the playing surface those guys were playing on was abysmal.
yeah,
It looked like they were playing, the surface looked so hard and so slick. It looked like they were playing on AstroTurf. I mean, the beginning of the match was absolute chaos for anybody that didn't watch. And it's just, to me, it brings down the MLS Next Pro a bit.
So
But
North Texas SC is oldest player, which is the feeder team to Dallas. Pretty sure. Um, their oldest player on their team is 23.
really, that's different than the way it is in the East then.
Yeah.
Because
So
Chattanooga's the oldest is in his,
yeah.
I think the
So their
oldest is
oldest
like
player is their
41.
goalkeeper. Is he? And it's their goalkeeper as well. Their
Their
goalkeeper.
goalkeeper's older than the coach. But
Yes.
you go 41, 29, 29, 27, and their youngest is 18. But that's not that unusual for a quote unquote senior team.
Yeah. So North Texas SC is their oldest player is their goalkeeper, who's 23 years old, and then like it goes down from there. So there's two 23-year-olds and about three 22-year-olds, and everyone under that is below 21.
Well, they're I feel like they're the outlier because Carolina Core,
They're like 50. They've got a 13-year-old signed to their team apparently. I
wow,
don't know how that's legal.
Carolina Core, they're older. Their average age is probably around that 24, 25-year-old range. Huntsville is actually, let me sort it by age. Yeah, Huntsville's actually younger. Their oldest is 25. Their youngest is 15 and not listed.
Yeah,
They don't play with.
Minnesota has a. Oh no, that's their coach. I was like 35-year-old. Like that's their coach. Their oldest player is 25, and then
Okay.
they've got one 25-year-old, one 24, one 23, and then everyone else is below 22. So they've got a young squad as well, Minnesota's. I would consider 22 still young. Still trying
Yeah,
to
that's why I
find,
did 22 and younger.
yeah, still trying to find your feet in your career, definitely.
So to a point, it's just my recency bias because Orlando City B just played Chattanooga. Um, so I mean, before Chattanooga, I think it was They played Huntsville City.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, is one of the, they're younger. They have a couple older players, but they're mainly younger. But it's to me, it still rubs me the wrong way. It annoys me that they're in there when it's supposed to be a developmental league to feed the MLS teams, and it's not that.
Yeah, I understand the frustration. It's just, these kids can compete
Mm-hmm.
against these players, and sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need an experienced player to go in and teach some of these young kids a lesson
Yeah.
on how football's been done. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I know, like a few of our older players have come in, stepped in, and like, like a few of our senior players have stepped in for a game, try to get back fitness, and played against them. They're probably thinking like, "What's this flipping 32-year-old doing playing against me?" Meanwhile, I've got geometry class in the morning, like, and he's had a career, and that's
Mm-hmm.
probably what they're thinking.
And
So, but
kids.
yeah, like literally, like these are kids, and they're playing like. But that's the game, and sometimes if you're good enough, you're good enough, and sometimes you'll go against a 35-year-old or a 40-year-old or a
Yeah.
38-year-old or a 28-year-old in their prime, even if you're 14. If you're good enough, you're gonna play against them.
But to me, anybody that tries to say, something I saw kind of unrelated to the exact posts, the exact account that I'm talking about, somebody put that they prefer to watch their Premier League team, which is Chelsea, over the MLS because the MLS doesn't make youth development a priority.
I think,
And I just had to laugh at that. Like, in my opinion, like, one, Chelsea's majority owner is an American. And how many times do you see an academy player make an appearance for a Chelsea or in a league game?
I think it's like I think in the Premier League team it's like a occasion when you see
Yeah.
like a homegrown. For us, it's the normal.
No,
It's like
exactly.
it's like they're all talking about the next kid on the block in these academies, and you don't see them. Or like if you do see them, it's like a former player's son, like oh my days, the Fletcher sons, who is the brother, who is their dad is Darren Fletcher, who they Darren Fletcher played for Man United, manages alongside Carrick for Man United, and the Fletcher, they're both, I think they're twins actually, and they both like they talk about it because Darren Fletcher's such a great player. They're like, "Oh my days, the son," then they come through the academy and stuff like that. Save for like Kai Rooney, the whose dad is of course Wayne Rooney. Um, so that's kind of when academies get spoken about, is when like legendary players, kids come up through the academy and stuff like that. You can go for the same with like um I was gonna say
Well, isn't Trent, what's his name, the guy that just went from Liverpool to Man U, wasn't he? Or yeah, it was Liverpool, right? Trent Alexander-Arnold,
uh
wasn't he
Real
an
Madrid.
academy product?
Real Madrid, yeah. Yeah, he was an
Or Real
academy.
Madrid, yeah.
Liverpool have tons of academy products like, Steven Gerrard, Jamie Carragher, um,
But I'm saying, like,
like
recently, it's not. It's in
Curtis
the
Jones.
Premier League for the top teams. You see it, like you said, it's an occasion when an academy player makes an appearance in a league match.
For
They
us,
make it.
yeah, for us it's the norm.
Yeah, for us, it's the norm seeing an academy kid. You look at what
The reason
you
it
know,
is though is because of the salary cap. You can get these kids on a cheap.
and it doesn't
You
go
don't really have
towards
to
the
pay
cap.
for anything. You don't have to pay for anything. For them, you're probably going to stick them on like at least $1 million a year, and it's not really gonna hurt you, but like it's an occasion for these kids. Like they're like, oh, what an honor! And I'm not bashing the kids playing academy ball. Trust me, love academy ballers, but it's for them it's the occasion, and for us it's the norm. That's the difference. We see academy players go in and out of this club all the time. Shaq Mohammed, like I would class him as kind of like an academy baller because he went to OCB.
Hmm.
But like when he made his debut, it was like, you know, it is what it is. Justin Ellis, it was like, but we had like before Justin Ellis, there was an Alex Freeman. And before Alex Freeman, correct me if I'm wrong here. Oh no, I don't want to say if I'm wrong. There was a Richie Larea. I think
But between those two was Freeman. But yeah.
no, but I'm saying like Richie.
Oh, to get significant time.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
Richie Larea, and like these are academy ballers came from our academy, and like it's the norm for us. It's not an occasion. These are ballers who have played for Orlando, and they're just academy players. That's it. So there's no
Hmm.
occasion behind it. There's going to be academy players coming in after us and after them and before them and whatever. So it doesn't matter. That's the difference.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, it's just people trying to blow steam and make excuses not to
Yeah.
watch the MLS, or just to bash the MLS as a whole. Because I feel like what we've kind of said tonight, and obviously it's opinionated, but for those people, and Luke, I'm sure you have people that have come over from England that have never seen an Orlando City match that go and they're like, wow, this is actually pretty high quality, higher quality than what it gets its reputation for. I mean, I hear that all the time when I used to drive Lyft. I'd pick people up from Disney and what have you, and they'd see like my Orlando City license plate frame, or I used to have they gave away a mini scarf and I had it hanging from my rear view mirror. They saw that, and we'd be talking a little bit, and every time when we'd be talking, and or nearly every time. I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head that said that it was a bad product, because I would ask them. I said, truthfully, I'd say something to the effect of, truthfully, what do you think of the level of play? And they'd be like, oh no, it's high. Anybody that says it's not a high level of play probably has never really watched a match. And it's just one of those that, like, I just don't understand it. Maybe 20 years ago I know 20 years ago the level was bad, but it's just not that way. I mean, like I said before, you just take this team, depending on what we do in September in the semifinal, and I still compare it to that team just because it's the furthest we've been since that year. The team that won the U.S. Open Cup, you look at the talent on this team and the talent on that team, and to me, it's, obviously Janssen's still here and Cartagena's still here, and Angulo's still here, but like, Cartagena last year probably should not have been, we should have found a replacement for him, but this year for some reason he's, been irreplaceable. We'll see what comes in the second half. Cartagena hasn't really played in a season and a half because of an injury. And then, those three are the exceptions of all those players that were on the team. Benji Michel, we said he's playing in Korea or Japan somewhere now.
Yeah, he's playing in the gym.
So the league's advanced fast, and it's just, to me, it's time for the people that want to throw shade at the league to actually educate themselves and give it a chance and see the product that's on the field. And then there's the people that say, oh, but the passion's different in Europe, it means more. But then you go on their profile and they're a fan of an MLB and an NFL team or NHL team or NBA team, whatever it may be, and it's like, it's the same system, in those leagues where there's no promotion relegation. It's the same way here, and there is passion here. It's shown by this show. It's shown by Lions Den. It's shown by LPO. It's showed by, all the podcasts that have came and went, that the passion's here. You go to the stadium, the passion's there. Whether Luke and I want to harp on the supporters groups or not, there's still a passion there that you don't get in other sports.
Yeah.
Still, as much as Luke and I get on them about things, there's still, the passion's still there. And it's something. I used to go to Reds games all the time, and trust me, there's nothing like live sports, period. But I never had full season tickets. I do a pack where I got like 2 games a month, because that's a lot of games, obviously. 81 home games would be a full season ticket package for Major League Baseball. But I got it where like every Saturday, that they had a home game, basically I had a 2 tickets, which was like equated to like 13 games. But I never found myself, when there'd be a long stretch of games of not having a home game on a Saturday, craving to go back to the stadium, or, driving the 45 minutes to get to Dayton to watch a Dayton Dragons game, or what have you. When it comes to watching Orlando City, I'm like a drug addict. Like as weird as it sounds, it literally feels like something has been missing. As fun as the World Cup and everything's been, something's been missing that I haven't been doing. And what's that thing? It's going to the stadium and going to the games. And, Luke knows I make a spectacle of it beforehand with the tailgate and everything. I'm usually at the match 2.5 to 4 hours beforehand, grilling and drinking and talking it up with my friends, and, popping smoke off when we have them, when the opposing team's bus drives by, and all that stuff. But, something's still been missing, and it's just live soccer is just so addicting, especially when you have, the passion that this fan base can and does have, for this team. I mean, look at the attendances in 2017, 2018, and 2019. We were terrible, and we were still filling that stadium well over half. And we didn't have a Messi coming and playing. We didn't have, the stars coming and playing like we have now. And, it's just going to a live sporting event. There's nothing like it, especially a live soccer game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a bit different for me, of course. I was raised on a different team. Kind of just adopted the team because I moved here. That's kind of it with me. Is like I kind of just adopted this team because they were kind of here. So, yeah, as I was describe it to everyone, like Orlando City, when they lose, it ruins my weekend. When Blackpool loses, it ruins my week. So it still like ruins, a part of my day, and I still care a little bit like about it. But like my real team's Blackpool. But I was raised with both, pretty much.
Well, but Blackpool's in your blood to some extent, though.
Yeah.
That's a heritage thing that you pass on. It's like, it's like your dad's watch, essentially.
Yeah.
People cherish stuff like that more than if it's something that they bought on their own or was gifted to them personally. When it's something that's passed down from generation to generation, and the MLS is just now, they're still not, because the generation's every 15 years. They're still in their first, they're just now getting into their second generation. Luke's the old person in that second generation. Technically, when I started paying attention to the MLS, really paying attention to the MLS, was when Orlando City joined in 15. I just obviously the 3 years prior followed the team, you know, casually, a little more than casually, but not regularly. Like I went to like a match or two in 13 and 14. And didn't really I would look up their scores online and stuff, and then that was about it. But really fell in love with it was the first MLS match. But still, there's just nothing like it, and especially if it's like think about my son Luke. I mean, you see how important it is to him. I mean, it's
Yeah,
the kid cries after every loss.
which is a
Legitimately.
lot. Which is a lot of tears
Yeah.
because we lose quite often.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it shows that I coach football for a living. I coach football all the time, and it shows that there's Americans out there, and I've been around coaching for a very, very, very like nearly 4 years now, so I wouldn't say a long time, but I'd say for a bit now. 4 or 5. Wow, I'm getting on. But there's like there's some how do I describe it? There's some kids that are there because they want to play a sport, and then there's some kids that are there because they want to learn about football. There's the sport versus football. I coach so many kids that come back every week and they're like, Coach Luke, I just want to learn about football from your perspective and your mind and whatever that goes on in your head. And I'm like, great. I said, these are the players that I'm here. I'm like, you could be a great athlete all you want. There's tons of great athletes that I coach. But holy moly, do they not know how to kick a ball to save their life? They know how to run quick. They have some footwork. But when it comes to kicking the ball, I'm like, okay. But it's the players that want to learn how to play football, and the ones they're not necessarily good, but willing to learn, that are the best players that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And more players are coming to play this game every single week. And it's the players that show up every week. And it's became like 5 players that I remember their names that show up every week to now 7 players every week to now 10 players every week to now 15. Next thing you know, there's 20 kids showing up every single week. And I know their names back to front. And they're like, Coach Luke, why don't you like make a competitive team? And I'm like, good idea. And then, go from there. So it shows that football is growing in the country. And it starts off with people who have moved to this country that are so passionate about this game that want their kids to play. And that's how it starts. So,
Well, see, I grew up on the west side of Cincinnati, and it's a little bit, it's a hotbed for especially youth soccer. It was, from what I understood growing up, and it was one of the few places in the country that in the 90s and early 2000s had these massive soccer complexes. We're talking 10, 15 full-size fields, tournaments every weekend, all of that. And I grew up, my best friend growing up, his whole family, he was the youngest of 5 or 6 kids. He was really into soccer. My cousins that were just older than me were all boys, and they were all really into soccer and playing on, at the time we called them select teams. Same with my neighbor and his brothers, and his sisters, they all played for select teams. So I was in a really different, like, I grew up a little bit differently from that aspect than a lot of other people, because it was always in my life. I didn't start playing till I was later, a little bit older. I was 9 when I started playing. But it was still just something that was always in my life. Even though I didn't play, we still played in the yard all the time. And, had my friend, his family, and my cousins that kind of taught me the basics of it and stuff. And you know, people my age, not everybody really had that. You look at for instance, Misael. He just recently started paying attention to the sport. Recently, meaning in the last 5 to 10 years. You look at a lot of the Orlando City fans, and it's something they weren't really involved in
And they still
until,
don't know. No, Joe.
well, a lot of them tried. There's only
Yeah.
so much you can learn as an adult when it's not you're a kid. It's something you can do all the time. Um, so it's something that, again, generationally, um, you look at when we played the Brazilian team last year, the 25 preseason, and how their fans were, and think about that. That's a club that's over 100. I think they're 122 years old. I think they started in like 1904. So you know, that's nearly 30 generations that are not
And I
30.
still
Sorry.
consider that not even old.
Yeah. You think about how many generations that club has been passed down through. You
Like
think
mine,
about, yeah, your club is how old?
137 years old.
Yeah. You think about that's almost 10 generations that it's passed on. It is basically 10 generations it's passed down through.
Yeah.
So, you go and when you have that sport in your community and the figurehead is a professional team, whether it's because your team been in a Premier League or the top level in England?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you take those the clubs that are in these communities, and it's a little bit different in England because it's so much smaller, and we're getting to have a good number of clubs in the United States. The map of fully professional teams here in the United States is getting to be pretty impressive in my opinion. But until, speaking here for Orlando, until it gets to that deep into that second or even into that third generation, the passion and, ruining your week type of deal, as Luke said, isn't going to be there. I take it more seriously than a lot of people, than most people. But it's something that, the other thing that came up was, on social media, kind of where I'm getting to is people were saying it's not a part of the community. It has nothing to do with the community. I'm sorry. You go to, take out the tourist attractions, but you go to Publix, you go to Walmart, you go to the local, Marshalls or Ross or, wherever. You're going to see people with Orlando City shirts or hats or, license plates or license plate frames, stickers, whatever it may be. I wish they brought the stickers or the magnets back like they used to do, where they just gave them out. But you see it all over the place, and it's not this thing that's like just this niche sport anymore, like it was, in the early 2000s or even into the 20. I really feel like it kind of changed in 2014. As a nation, it started to really change. Locally, it definitely changed in 2014, 2015 because of us moving to the MLS. But, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like Orlando City's, for being so young in comparison, is pretty ingrained in the community, pretty part of the community.
Yeah, but for the sizes, it isn't. Like, Orlando's very big, and yet there's still people unwilling to support Orlando. They're like, oh, I'm like so upset the World Cup's ended. Wish I could watch that football every week. I'm like, well, you can. I'm like, you've got a team down the road. So it might not be as good, or it might not be as great, or it might not be as pretty, but it's a team you can go watch live football with. Said fall in love with the sport, go watch it. That's the only
Yep.
way you'll fall in love with it, is to go watch it.
Well, and the thing is too is like people say, oh, about the quality of the league. the MLS was the 6th ranked team in minutes for the World Cup, or 6th ranked league worldwide for minutes. You had the Big Five, you had Premier League, you had Bundesliga, you had Serie A, you had league, whatever Spain calls it,
La Liga,
or I'm sorry, whatever France calls it, and then the league.
La Liga, and Liga.
Yeah, whatever, however you say it in French. And then there was the MLS. So, if you're saying the quality's bad, how does the MLS rank 6th on that list? Something has to give, you know. Either these national teams made horrible choices, or
I don't know how Italy ranks on that, by the way.
they do. I mean,
Serie A.
they had. I'll just Milan because that's the Italian team that I follow. They had they had quite a few players.
Yeah, I don't know.
Belgium had a couple. Obviously Croatia had 2. So I mean, it's there's I think there were 2 players on England as well that had that were considered a part of Italy at the time. I think they've since moved on, but but they gave the minutes to where they ended the team, the club, the league they ended the season in, not the league they're about to join. So like for instance, Cucurella for Spain.
There's no Italians. So there's no Italians.
Yeah, there's no Italians, but the Italian league itself had quite a few. And obviously, if the Italian team was there, it would have been much higher. But yeah, I mean, you started to talk about the young players and playing. I mean, anytime a new season comes up, I have a mini panic attack because my son, who's 4, this fall it's his first time being eligible to play actual matches and stuff. Everything before has just been trainings or practices. And this year the price for him to play jumped big time. It more than doubled, because we were paying about $100 for an 8-week session, one time a week for 45 minutes. And it jumped to $225 for him to play. And we still have to, buy his jersey, his kit, which I believe is over $100. So it's like 2 shirts and a pair of shorts. And that doesn't include the boots and the shin pads, which we were lucky and found his boots for a pretty good deal, but doesn't include all of that stuff. And I know it gets absolutely ridiculous. You're talking about, thousands of dollars per season when he gets older. And if he starts playing, club, for a travel club and stuff like that. So obviously, and it happens every 4 years, or anytime the U.S. loses in a major tournament, that we need to end pay to play, which the U.S. is one of the few countries, maybe the only country in the world that has a pay to play system, meaning it's literally what it says. You have to pay X, it varies per team, but you have to pay X amount to play for this season, or X amount to play for the year, whatever it may be. And, I don't know a lot about how they do it in England, and we use England because that's where Luke's from, but so just kind of explain I know the clubs start younger. They start at like Barrett's age over there, and you can move up. But kind of explain what it looks like I know you weren't that age when you moved here, but a 13, 14-year-old that's trying to get on, that's trying to play for a quote unquote competitive team. There.
You can go to trials in different types of non-league teams or professional teams, depending on who scouts you. You'll just play probably Sunday league, or you can go to like a non-league team, like local non-league teams. There's so many clubs around in such a small area, so you'll probably find one. And yeah,
so let's say the 13, we'll just say 14-year-old, because that's usually getting ready to go into high school. The 14-year-old, he played for a non-league academy. You know, he's been getting scouted by, you know, by let's just say a League One club.
Yeah.
Okay, name a League One club. A handful of them.
Yeah.
So he goes to these trials. Does he have to pay anything for the trials?
If he gets scouted, no. He
Okay.
doesn't have to pay for anything.
But if it's like an open tryout type of thing,
Yeah,
where
if it's
just,
open, then it's open.
and
Yeah.
do you have to pay for that?
No. If it's open.
Because like here in the States, you do open tryouts, you go and you pay, you know, I think it's $150 for the tryout. So, all right. So you go to this tryout and let's say you make the team. Okay. And you make their top team for your age group. What do you pay over there?
Oh,
What do you pay the club?
sorry, say the question again.
So let's say, you know, this 14-year-old that we're talking about goes and, you know, has a good tryout and he makes a team, makes it to the top team. Because obviously they probably have 2, 3, 4 different levels of the team.
Yeah.
He makes it to the top team. What does he play the club to pay?
If the club wants him, then nothing. Or, or probably, like, I don't know. But, like, it'll probably pay something, but it's not, like, barely nothing.
It's not $1,000 a
No,
season or
No,
$4,000 for the year or whatever it may be.
No, nothing like that.
What about travel expenses? Who covers that?
The team.
Gear,
The team.
unless he wants to go off what the team gives him.
Yeah. Unless he wants to wear Notion.
Like if it's an Adidas club, he can choose to wear Nike or whatever if he wants to.
Yeah.
Or Umbro or whatever other brand.
Yeah.
So obviously here it's not that way. Obviously, you know, if you're, let's just take that 14-year-old, you know, same age, same skill level, and he's at a, you know, that's just where it's so different. Is here there's so many different leagues and clubs that, and independent clubs that, you know. So let's say he's playing for, you know, I'm just going to make up a club. He's playing for Apopka United, for instance.
Yeah.
And they play, you know, they play a decent level. They travel regionally. You know, you know, they're okay, but they're not like, you know, they're not competing with your Orlando City chapter schools and stuff. They're, you know, let's say that they play, the league they play in is, you know, U.S. club soccer, for instance, but this player's the best player on that team, right?
Yeah.
And he goes and he tries out for, Seminole United, for instance, because he's on Popcar. I would assume it'd be like Seminole United or the OC chapter school in Winter Garden.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty big step to go, you know, but they do have different levels there. They have your you know, the different, you know, your MLS next, tier 2, and then the main MLS next. But he goes and he tries out for, you know, Seminole United. He has to pay a fee for the tryout, whether he's been scouted by them or not. He has to pay a fee for the tryout. And then if he makes the team, you know, it's quite a bit of money for him to play, you know. If for a 4-year-old that doesn't travel and it's just playing, you know, just playing one match a week and has one practice a week, to a 14-year-old that's practicing, probably 3 or 4 days a week and playing another 2 or 3, having matches 2 or 3 days a week, you're looking at a lot more money. The figure I have that I have in my head, I'd have to look it up because I looked it up a while ago, was $1,200 per season.
Yeah.
And now clubs have started recently. There's a national program. There's local, per club programs that you can apply to for like financial aid and stuff. And obviously, if the club wants you to play for them, they'll find you a way to play for them. So, that's kind of what it looks like from comparing England to the U.S. for that. And then obviously, if the player's good enough and makes an MLS academy, like if, that this 14-year-old plays a season for Seminole United, Orlando City scouts him and wants to sign him, then that's closer to what they have in England, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So that's a positive that the MLS is doing. Obviously, they have the backing with the senior club and money's just rolling in. And they really do look at it as with the MLS Academy, they're looking at it as an investment for the future, rather these private or these independent youth clubs look at it as how, trying to make money type of deal.
Yeah. So when it comes to that type of deal, I'm kind of like the middleman. So I do rec. So I get ballers who will play club, but I'm kind of like the extra practice they need while they're also like in the off season. This is kind of like the off season for club teams. But like, let's just say there's like a random baller, never played club in his life, and I'm like, this kid's a baller. I'll call coaches because I have coaches' contacts, and I'm like, come look at this kid, you might want him. And then like they come and they watch and they see how he is, and they're like, here, like we work with other clubs around to get these kids on a team. So that's kind of like my role, where
Yeah.
I kind of scout and develop the ballers into complete a blob of clay into something. Because sometimes these kids I get and they're like they've never played the game in their lives, or they have played the game and they need help. So
So, I mean, and basically what I'm getting to is the whole issue of getting rid of the pay to play thing.
yeah,
I feel like it kind of falls into the same boat as promotion and relegation to a certain extent. Would it be nice if it happens? Absolutely. Is it going to happen? I don't think there's any chance that it'll ever happen, because too many people are making too much money off of it. And these there's coaches that this is their job. There's administrators that this is their job. So it's just one of those that I personally, what I like to see it happen, having a 4-year-old that has a passion for the game. Luke can attest to everything, because Luke's Luke plays with him, knocks the ball around with him at the tailgates and stuff, and Luke can attest to it. But it comes to a point where when is too expensive, and we've kind of I feel it's past that point to where you look at players that are professional athletes in other sports, like Odell Beckham Jr., for instance, the wide receiver. He grew up as a soccer prodigy and had to stop playing soccer because his family couldn't afford for him to continue playing at keep advancing levels and such. So he had to give up soccer and started playing American football. Imagine that freak athlete. And I know just because you're a good athlete doesn't mean you're going to be a good soccer player, because soccer is such an unnatural sport, having to do the things you have to do with your feet. But if he's one example, think about the millions and millions of other examples that are out there that the parents couldn't figure it out. For instance, for me, for baseball, I was asked pretty much weekly to play for this club or that this travel baseball team or that travel baseball team. and my family couldn't swing it. It was too expensive, and baseball at that time was much cheaper than soccer is today. And, I come from a big family. I completely understood it. Stunk at the time, still kind of stinks today, but it's something as the oldest child that I understood being 14, 15, 16 years old. But, it's just something that it shouldn't be that way with sports, period. Sports are supposed to be there to help kids and help, make communities better and help grow kids' love for the sport. And if kids are having to stop playing a sport and stop advancing in the sport, it's taking that away from them, in my opinion. So would I love to see it go? Yes. I just don't see how it's going to ever go away more than what the MLS is doing. Maybe the USL will be able to start something once they get a little bit bigger, but and then that'll give, another, 40 to 60 opportunities for kids, to 40 to 70 opportunities, for kids to join clubs for little to no cost. But I don't know what you think, Luke. I know you're involved in it, so I don't know how much you can actually say without potentially getting in trouble. But
yeah. So do you want to kind of just sum it down into a question, just a little bit?
is pay to play? Is it? Are you able to get? You think it's feasible to get rid of pay to play, or why? Or why or why not?
Just very. It's too enrooted in the sport, in the culture, right? Because of this sport, because they see the potential of it, and they're kind of like, let's see the profit, because there's so many people that want to play this sport, so they see the profit. So no, I don't think there's a way out of pay to play. But is there a way to get out of it? Absolutely, there is a way to get out of it, but will it happen? No, unfortunately not. So yeah, that's the unfortunate part around it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Absolutely, completely agree about it, because it stinks. I understand, like, insurance and all these other things have to be paid somehow, and it comes down to people look at what Germany did, because I think Germany used to have a pay to play model before. Was it 14 when they got grouped?
Yeah.
Or 13 when they got grouped, whatever, or 10 when they got grouped, whatever year that was. And they completely changed it. And somebody on social media tried to make that comparison. Well, you look at the number of estimated number of youth soccer clubs in the United States, and the estimated number of youth soccer clubs in Germany, and it was nearly 20 times the amount.
Yeah.
So because there's just plain more people. It's obviously a much bigger economy, or a much bigger population than the United States is. You just take Florida. I'm just trying to think of population. So you take Florida, Texas, and California, three of the bigger states in the country. Well, you take those three states, and we have close to, if not more than, the population of Germany.
Yeah.
So to me, that's not feasible for the government, and it's kind of anti-capitalism for the government to get involved in that. Because the system we have is very pro-capitalism. The pay to play is very pro-capitalism, but it's also kind of one of, not to get political, one of the negative things of it too. But at the same time, I also feel like pay to play would weed out those parents that force their kids to play. You know what I mean? Or try to prop up a player that's not at the level of the team they're playing on, but they're able to pay this money so they get a spot on the team.
That's what I'm saying, is that pay to play, I come across kids that they're like, oh, it's something I could just stick my kid in. And it's just, money. It's money to them. So they don't really care about it. And they're just like, I'll just stick my kid in it. And there's some kids that want to be there, and then there's some kids that don't want to be there. And then that conflicts, and I'm kind of stuck with, what do I do? And sometimes I just ship the kids off to another coach. I'm like, you're serious about this game. I know a coach that's better for you. And then sometimes I'll be honest with the parents, and I'm just like, your kid doesn't want to be here. I said, there are plenty of the camps or plenty of the teams out there that's better for him. I said, I can give you some contacts, contacts, and we respectfully, that's what we do. We just kind of say, like, there are better coaches out there and we can give you contacts, or there's not better there's a different avenue you can go, and we don't mind putting them away if it doesn't match our philosophy and what we want to do for the game.
But see, that's kind of where I'm going. It's not every club, every academy or club, whatever you want to call it, is like that. There are probably more out there that aren't like that than are. And, that'll just take the players, take the family's money and,
Listen,
and play
Yeah.
the kid,
yeah, that's most of the time.
kind of that, to go off of like a movie thing, the kid that's the, big booster's son in high school, and the coach can't kick him off the team, even though he's not good enough, because they know if they kick him off the team, the money's going to stop coming in,
Yeah,
type of deal.
yeah.
So I don't know. Well, something has to change though with the sport as a whole in our country in order for the national team to get better, and the league of the MLS to get better. Obviously having a great domestic league is important for, especially a country of this size, is important for the national team, which, even though there's always a debate of club over country, or country over club, the every player's dream from, the time they're, 3-4 years old, once they start understanding, up until their playing days are done, is to play for their national team, over playing for any club typically. So, I mean, it's something that, that changes need to be made locally to affect the domestic, the professional domestic leagues, and then stuff has to change in domestic leagues for stuff to change in the national team. What order that happens doesn't necessarily matter, but something definitely has to change, with the way the economy of the sport works in our country.
Yeah, I agree. We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah,
I think the World Cup will definitely change it with how many kids will be interested in playing football. So
yeah,
people will
definitely.
be like, I can't afford it. And then next thing you know, they're like, oh shoot, there's all these people. And then next thing you know, people are making these quote unquote free academies that are not free, but they're cheaper than the ones that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting more customers than the ones that are you paying $500 a season or $1,000 a season. And next thing you know, they're like, why are they going there and they're not going here? It's like, because they're cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, because they're a cheaper alternative to what you have there, and they still get to play football.
Well, and the hard thing about a club coming through that's cheaper is then you're gonna, what happens is that as they start raising the price, so less people are interested, and then they're right there with everybody else in price. It's
Well,
hard.
that's why you hire more coaches.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That's why I'm
Mhm.
around.
So it's just, it's a snowball that's got to hit a tree at some point, one way or the other.
Like I'm looking around for different clubs and stuff, seeing like if I could move on from the one I'm at now.
Hmm.
And if there's it's a great pitch opportunity for me. If there's any clubs out there that are looking for coaches, please hit me up, or comment down below. I'm looking for, and I'm qualified. Don't worry, I can prove that. Um, I'm not just a kid who talks about football all the time, even though that would be fun.
What certification I know you're working on a certification. Which one are you working on right now?
In progress on my C license,
For
US soccer, and I'm on my like, what should you call it, the first D license for my FA coaching license. So I'm working on two at once. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, I just started doing the U.S. Coaching stuff. I'm still on the first. I still have to do all the videos at first. I still got like 90 minutes of videos left.
Ugh.
And then I still have to do the conferences, for the grassroots level.
Yeah,
Do
I
two of those
I
just to
remember those.
qualify to do the seminar for the C license or whatever it is, D
Yeah,
license, whatever's the first one.
yeah, but I think that's it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
No, just a big week for the boys. They obviously are in action. What'll be later
Tomorrow.
tonight by the time the show drops. Against San Jose, they're second in the West right now, and then they come back home to Orlando on Saturday. Big test. We'll see what happens with Martin Ojeda. He's obviously been labeled as out for tomorrow. A lot of that doesn't make sense. Obviously, if you saw the show's X account, we're trying to figure it out with some of our sources, kind of to get get what's going on with it. And if it's something that we can release to everybody, we will. Because sometimes you get stuff from sources that that they say, hey, this is this is what's going on, but you don't tell anybody. And at that point, you can't tell anybody.
Yeah,
So, just keep tuned to X. David G also does a good job of getting the inside scoop on things as well. He's probably the premier guy right now for it, actually, for our club. So, keep tuned to his page, keep tuned to our page. If anything does break about Martin's injury. I hate how general they were. The thigh could be anything. Is it
yeah.
is it a hamstring? Is it a quad? Is it a hip flexor?
It's a
You
leg
know,
injury,
is it a groin muscle? What is it? Like, you got to be, there's so much that could be there. That
but
could
I
be,
think it's going to be a leg injury.
they
Which,
put thigh on the injury
no, I'm
report.
saying like they've got like, I remember back in the day they used to just put leg, and I'm
Yeah.
like, he could have stubbed his toe walking down the steps, and that could be a leg injury.
Hmm.
Like, what are we talking about here? Like, but
So, and then, but it's a good time for Justin Ellis to step up and see what he can do. And then, can't wait for Saturday. I'm so excited for Saturday. Um, you know, definitely counting the sleeps before Saturday. 'Cause it's been too long since we've seen the boys play. So thank you for everybody that has that'll be watching this. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comments. DM us. If you ever want to appear on a show, you have a story you want to tell, a question you want to ask and have a conversation about, like Adam did about a month ago. Shoot us a DM on any of our socials. We'll get to you, and If it's been a couple days, we're horrible at checking our hidden messages. So if it's something where you follow us but we don't follow you, it goes into the hidden messages. And we're you know, I'm terrible at looking at them. And I know some of the other guys, I know the other guys don't remember to check them always as well. So just DM us on there. You know, if I just really hope we come away with more than 2 points, or more than 2 points over the next two. That'd be a success in my opinion. So, but for Luke, everybody on the main show, thank you for tuning in. And as always, vamos Orlando.
Schlegel's in the back. The shot, Schlegel saves it! Can you believe that?